Hello and welcome to another episode of Thick Slices and Deep Cuts. Today I will be discussing progressive technical death metalers OBSCURA from Munich, Germany, Bavarian band. Just awesome band. I probably heard their music for the first time, I guess about 2009 or so. And ever since then they've pretty much been an auto purchase anytime they release anything, which they don't release a ton of stuff, but when they do it really makes an impact. Just a cool band. Basically, the guy that runs the show is Steffen. I hope I'm pronouncing all these names correctly because they're very, very tricky. But Steffen is the vocalist, guitarist, and I'll go through some of the different lineups. They've had a few lineup changes over the years. I'll be ranking their 5 albums. So they have 5 albums to date. They probably have a 6th album already done, mastered the whole thing. But I have yet to hear when that will be released or see an album cover or anything like that. But they have completed a 6th album as we speak. But since that's not out yet, and since we don't know the release date, I'm just going to go ahead and review the 5 albums that they do have out. Not a weak album in the bunch. So this was a very difficult list to, I kind of knew my 1 and my 5, but 2, 3, and 4 were just all over the place. No weak albums here. Pretty awesome history, and I'll kind of go through and cite some of their influences and some of the, the 6 degrees of OBSCURA and some of their connections with other bands and things like that. But one other thing that's cool about this band, they have fretless bass. So I think the only band I can think of that had fretless bass up to this point would have been like, wherever Steve DiGiorgio was. If he was in Sadist or his time in Death, they had the fretless bass going on. And then one other band, which I will get to here in a moment. So very cool band, 7-string guitars, things like that. Their influences could be anything from like early Atheist, Death, Cynic, stuff like that. So we'll just go ahead and get right into it. Again, 5 albums to review here. Band formed in 2002, recorded their first album in 2004, which I think was released. It's hard to say when it was actually released, 2005 or 2006. So here we go. Coming in at number 5, I'm going to go with their debut from 2006, recorded back in 2004, but it's called Retribution. Really good album. This was recorded... So, they're from Munich, so they're from southern Germany, Bavaria. Well, also sort of in southern Germany, over in the Rhineland. They recorded with Alex Kroll of Atrocity, the vocalist for Atrocity. So he recorded and produced this. It sounds good. It just sounds like classic old school, death metal, kind of technical, but not overly technical. And I'm not sure who's doing the vocals here. It says that Steffen is the vocalist and guitar player, but I saw that V. Censura, who I'll get to in a little bit, did a lot of the vocals too, and a lot of it sounds like Alex Kroll. There's a heavy Atrocity feel to this album, which is really cool. So I'm digging that. Humankind, None Shall Be Spared, Hymn to a Nocturnal Visitor. I think it even has some violins in there. It's very cool. Sentiment might be my favorite track on here. If this episode goes long enough, you may actually hear that one. But really promising debut. This is Steffen in a completely different cast of characters for just this one album. So he's gone through some lineup changes over the 5 albums, and this lineup is just Steffen and people that you would only see on this album. But it's a really good, promising debut. Again, if you like old Atrocity, like Hallucinations or Tedescent Suit, aka Longing for Death, stuff like that, you're probably going to dig this. It's got a little bit of that Atheist Piece of Time, maybe some Death in there too. But, it's not as polished as some of their albums that would come after this, but it's clear enough and it's good enough to get into. So there you go. And again, it's hard to know who's doing the vocals because Steffen, when he does his growls, he does different types of growls. And some of the times the people that are doing the guest vocals sound kind of like him, so it's hard to know who's doing the vocals from song to song. But so there you go. Coming in at number 5, a very cool and promising debut. Recorded in 2004, independently released, I think, in 2005, but officially released in '06, according to my copy on Relapse Records, Retribution. Okay, so coming in at number 4, and this was tough. I mean, I had this at 3. I mean, it's a good album. It is their 3rd album from 2011. It is called Omnivium, and we are listening to Ocean Gateways from Omnivium. Killer album. Heavy, more just, this band just keeps moving forward with each album. This is the 3rd album, but the 2nd in a row with this lineup that consisted of Steffen along with Christian Munzner on the other guitar, Hannes Grossman on the drum kit. He's insane. He's incredible. And I'll get more into his background here in a little bit. And is it Jeroen Paul Thesseling? So he's playing fretless bass. He played on Pestilence, the Spheres album, and later on an album called Doctor. But so you've got, they bring in the bass player from Pestilence fame to do some fretless bass work here. This album's great. I think the only reason I'm ranking it 4th is Septuagint is great, Vortex Omnivium, Ocean Gateways. There's a little bit of a lull in the middle of the album. Velocity is incredible. You've got a solo from Morian of Dark Fortress on that. It sounds kind of like a Dark Fortress song in ways. An instrumental called A Transcendental Serenade. It's like their version of like Orion from Metallica or something like that, but much deathlier. You could hear their like Morbid Angel influences and things like that here. But just a really, I think this is advancing what they started on the album before this. I just think that while this is more advanced in the technicality department, and it's definitely darker, heavier, more technical, but it was a toss-up between whether to rank this 3rd or 4th, and ultimately I think I just ranked it 4th, but there's nothing wrong with this album, and I've seen a lot of people rank this as possibly a top album. And again, Hannes Grossman on this album, his blast beats are even faster. And this would be the last album with this lineup. They would, once again, Steffen, the album after this, Steffen would lose all 3 of these guys and have to form a whole new lineup. Hannes Grossman left to form Alkaloid, among other things. Christian Munzner went to Alkaloid as well. And I think Jeroen Paul Thesseling, I'm not sure what he did. He either went back to Pestilence or just wasn't able to travel as much as this band would demand. But just another excellent, super teched out release from the band. Again, not a weak album in the bunch. I wanted to rank it 3rd, but ultimately coming in at number 4, their 3rd album from 2011, I have Omnivium. So the one that I was kind of trying to figure which one would be 3 and 4, but at number 3, ultimately I went with their 2nd album, Cosmogenesis. This is the one where I found out about the band. This is their first one officially released. This was their first one released while they were signed under Relapse, so they actually had a nice budget for this recording. This is just classic. If you like that death, cynic, atheist, more of the progressive Pestilence stuff, you're gonna like this. This is recorded. So V. Santura of Dark Fortress has a studio down in Bavaria, and they recorded 4 of their 5 albums in his studio. So he has recorded this one. You've got guest appearances. So this is the same lineup as Omnivium. So you still have Jeroen Paul Thesseling on this, and Christian Munzner and Hannes Grossman. Very clear production. This is very technical, clean, clear, technical. Lots of vocoder a la Cynic from Focus. Clean channel stuff. So very much showing off their progressive and melodic touch. Anti-Cosmic Overload, I think that's the first song I ever heard from them. I was sold pretty much instantly. Choir of Spirits has a guest solo from Timon Crudenier who was in Cynic during the Trace and Error sessions and was also in Exhidious at the time. You also have a guest solo from Ron Jarzon back at Watchtower. It's not vocal. Take a moment here. They definitely channeled that song God of Emptiness by Morbid Angel, kind of that slow slithering heaviness with the 7 strings. Anyway, you've got an awesome instrumental Orbital Elements. New Spheres is one of my favorites. The title track, Centric Flow. So just all kinds of good stuff on here. I think I ranked this over Omnivium. These are basically tied. I think Omnivium has better, darker, heavier playing, but I think maybe it's because I heard this one first. I just think these songs are a little bit more memorable from top to bottom. But again, if I could just have these two tied for 3, that's what I would do. But so there you go. At number 3, I have Cosmogenesis. It's their second album. In a way, it kind of feels like their first because the gap in time between the first album and this one was pretty significant, and the change in style. You know, the first one was definitely like this old school classic death metal, and then right here suddenly it's definitely technical, progressive, crystal clear, high budget production. But there you go, number 3, their second album, Cosmogenesis from 2009. All right. Coming in at number 2, this one really moved up the list as I reviewed for this album. I guess it kind of clicked this time around, but at number 2, I'm going with their most recent album as of now from 2018. I've got Diluvium, and this song is from it, an epilogue to infinity. Good timing on some of these songs here. You know, so we're getting to this lineup here. You've got Sebastian Lanzer on drums now for his second album. So when they lost Hannes Grossman, I was pretty concerned because I thought, man, that guy is incredible. You know, when they lost your own Paul Thesseling on fretless bass, I'm thinking, how are they going to replace him? Well, you've got Linus Klitzenauzer on fretless bass. He's incredible. You don't miss a beat. Sebastian Lanzer, I know this may be an unpopular opinion, but I think he's better than Hannes Grossman. In fact, he's the best drummer nobody knows about. Just go on YouTube and watch Sebastian Lanzer play the drum playthroughs of these songs. Absolutely incredible. I'm not even a drummer, and I'm just utterly impressed. This is also the first studio album to feature Rafael Trujillo, who had been with the band, but this is his first studio album done. And you look at the songwriting credits, you know, Steffen isn't writing everything. He's definitely letting the other guys contribute writing to it. And it's just Obscura just continuing to evolve in this progressive tech death realm. Clandestine Stars starts it off. I think Rafael Trujillo wrote that one. There are some other, you know, Emergent Evolution, the title track. A Mortification of the Vulgar Sun is really good. Is it Epicrosis? I think that's how you pronounce it. Ethereal Skies, The Seventh Aeon. There's so many good tracks on here. The Conjuration. So this is an album that kind of was kind of cold to me for the longest time. It was very technical and well executed, but the songs didn't really click for all that much. But I don't know. It seemed to click this time around. In fact, I listened to this a ton, along with the very first album too. The first album, the last album, the most. But Sebastian Lanzer, incredible drummer. Big fan of this album. Unfortunately, once again after this album, they've had a wholesale lineup change. So Sebastian Lanzer is no longer in the band. Neither is Linus Klitzenauzer or Rafael Trujillo. They all formed their own band called Obsidious, where they have a singer who growls and sings. And while I've seen the one video they've pushed out there for Season of Mist, I guess is who they're with, or Relapse. It's fine. It sounds like this, but with a singer who sings, and I just wish they would have just stuck together. But, oh well, I guess you have two bands that can do this kind of music. Which leads me to the fact that since since those guys left, Euro and Paul Thesseling is back in the band on fretless bass. Christian Munzner is back in the band on lead guitar. And they have a new drummer I don't know anything about called David Deepold. I don't know anything about him. I've seen him play one drum playthrough video of Vortex Omnivium. I guess he's up to the challenge. But there you go. It's an awesome album. I love this era of the band too. I love this this lineup, and especially anything with Linus and Sebastian on the as the rhythm section. You're thinking, how can you beat the rhythm section of Jeroen and Hannes, and yet Linus and Sebastian do a hell of a job. So there you go. At number 2, their most recent album as we speak, I have Diluvium from 2018. And also this wraps up the fourth part in the 4-part concept of albums that started with Cosmogenesis. On to Omnivium, finished with this. And one that I haven't mentioned yet that is coming in at number 1 from 2016, Acroasis. This album is awesome. This is the first studio album to feature Sebastian Lanzer and Linus Klitzenauser, but it also has a guitar player named Tom Geldschlager who plays a fretless guitar. And it's incredible, the specific kind of stylistic taste on this album is just so cool. Sermon of the Seven Sons, The Monist, Acroasis, the song title, 10 Sephiroth we heard to open this, probably my favorite song, Ode to the Sun, Fractal Dimension, Perpetual Infinity. There's a song on here called, I guess it's pronounced Weltziel. It's 15 and a half minutes. It's so experimental progressive. It's just way out there. It's a mess of a progressive, self-indulgent idea, and I love it. And you're never going to hear them do anything like that on any of the other albums to date. So this one is probably their most... It's got this fretless lead thing, too. It's got the most progressive out there song. It's just from top to bottom, all these songs are just jamming. And, you know, I don't know. I wish Tom Geldschlager would have stuck around because I like his style. Also, I heard where Steffen said that, you know, you have 2 guitar players. Well, he's like in the studio, one guitar player records all the tracks for one song, and one guitar player records all the tracks for another song, so you get different feels on the rhythms. And you can hear some of these songs where Tom Geldschlager did all of the rhythm guitar work, because it's just got these cool fretless guitar slidey things. Just incredible. They really embrace the fretless thing. So just a huge fan of this album when it came out. And again, that song Weltziel to top it all off. As if you don't get a loaded album of like 7 songs in a row that are good, then it ends with this really far out track. So that's the, when I re-rank them, you'll see that this is the 3rd in the 4-part series of the concept they did for Relapse Records. So there you go. That is ranking the 5 albums of OBSCURA. Again, they have a 6th album done, but when it will be released, we do not know. So coming in at number 5, their debut from 04, 05, 06, you have Retribution. Number 4 from 2011, their 3rd album, Omnivium. At number 3, their 2nd album from 2009, Cosmogenesis. At number 2, their most recent album from 2018, Diluvium. And at number 1, their 4th album from 2016, Acroasis. They also have another album. It's like a hodgepodge of things. It's called Illegimitation. So that was the original name of the band, and it's got their first 4-song demo with somebody else on vocals. It's kind of crude, but it's kind of a cool listen just to see where they started. It's also got some pre-production recordings from what would be the Cosmogenesis album. So you've got an early version of the song Incarnated. You have a song called Headworm and a song called Open the Gates, which were 2 songs that never made it to Cosmogenesis, but sound pretty cool in their own right. I think they were recorded around 06. And then to top it off, this is Linus Klitzenauser's first appearance with the band. Hannes and Christian Munzner are still there, and they record 3 covers. They record Atheist's Piece of Time, Cynic's How Could I from the Focus album, and Death's Flesh and the Power and Holes with the Sound of Perseverance, which I thought were pretty cool covers. Not to mention that they did covers on the first album. You've got Lack of Comprehension from Death. You've got Synthetically Revived from Suffocation. You've got An Emptiness from Morbid Angel. So they're definitely, even though they're a German band, they're definitely schooled in, you know, American tech death and, you know, anything progressive tech death like Pestilence. So I think that that covers it. Just to make another mention, you know, I mentioned this in another episode, but Steffen's other project is called Volcandra. It's an homage to early black and death metal a la Dissection. It's very cool. They even cover Dissection's song "The Somberland" on here. So I really prefer their first album, but they have 3 altogether. But that's Steffen's side project. What else? A lot of the guys, a lot of the OBSCURA alumni, almost all of them are in this band Alkaloid, which is really cool. You've got, you know, Moonsner, Hannes Grossman, Linus is in this band. You've got Morian of Dark Fortress is doing the vocals here. Speaking of Dark Fortress, you know, V. Santura is kind of like the 5th band member. He does all their recordings. That's Dark Fortress. You know, I think this is just show and tell, but Euroan was on this Pestilence album. He was also on Doctrine. V. Santura of Dark Fortress is also in Triptychon, along with Hannes Grossman now. Triptychon is basically Celtic Frost for the modern day. And I think I mentioned that Alex Kroll produced the very first album, but Matthias Roederer did some soloing on of Atrocity and some soloing on the first album. So just to give a shout out to another classic German death metal band there. Apparently they did not record with V. Santura this time around. They recorded up in Sweden with Fredrik Nordstrom, who's done, you know, Opeth. And I think he kind of got on the map when he did that At the Gates album, Slaughter of the Soul, and that was kind of a new way of doing production. So they've broken the string of doing a bunch of albums with V. Santura. They did the 4 on Relapse Records as part of that concept with him at Woodshed Studios down in Germany. But they're now on Nuclear Blast Records. They have this new lineup, which brings back some old members and a new drummer. But I'm anxious to see what they have now that they're starting on a new label with a new lineup. You know, possibly a slightly new direction. You know, what else can I say? I think I've pretty much covered all the main points here. But so there you go. This is that first album. I think this is called Sentiment, but there's nothing sentimental about this song. But so there you go. That is just covering the 5 albums of OBSCURA and a few other things. But so thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.